Welcome to our deep dive into Sufism.
Ooh,
Now,
I'm excited.
I think a lot of our listeners probably already know that Sufism is like the mystical heart of Islam. But we're going to kind of go beyond just that simple description.
Yeah, beyond the surface.
Oh, wow.
It's a journey.
Okay.
Going beyond the rituals and really diving deep into a personal experience with the divine.
So it's less about the rules and more about like directly experiencing the divine.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So in Sufism, you're not just acknowledging God intellectually. You're actively seeking to experience God's presence in your heart.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued, but I don't even know where to start with something that's as rich and nuanced as Sufism.
Yeah. I think a good place to start would be to trace its roots
Okay.
to the very beginning, to the early days of Islam,
Okay.
and even the Prophet Muhammad's own spiritual practices.
So are we saying that the seeds of Sufism were there from the start?
In a way, yeah. The Quran itself, with its verses about divine love and, the importance of purifying the heart, lays the groundwork
Okay.
for a lot of Sufi principles.
So these ideas were there from the start, but were there people who kind of took those seeds and helped them blossom?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There are some truly remarkable figures who helped define Sufism as we know it today,
Hmm.
like Hassan al-Basri.
Okay.
He was one of the earliest Sufis.
Okay.
And he was really a champion of a simple life, free from material attachment.
So stripping away all the distractions to make space for like the divine
Yes,
connection.
exactly.
Okay.
For Sufis, detachment from worldly positions is key to spiritual growth.
Hmm.
Then you have someone like Rabia al-Adwiya,
Okay.
this incredible woman mystic who challenged the very notion of reward and punishment in the afterlife.
Ooh, that's pretty radical.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To love God just for the sake of loving God,
Yeah.
not to get anything out of it.
Yeah. A pure, unconditional love for the divine becomes the driving force. Later on, you have figures like Al-Ghazali,
Okay.
this brilliant scholar who really helped bridge the gap between Sufism and mainstream Islamic thought.
What did he do?
Well, he argued that true knowledge doesn't come from books alone.
Okay.
It comes from directly experiencing God.
So less intellectual understanding and more about what you feel in your heart.
Yes.
Yeah.
He believed that intellectual understanding is just the first step. The real journey is about diving deep into the ocean of spiritual experience.
Like you wouldn't say you know how to swim just because you read a book about it.
Right.
You have to actually do it.
Yeah, you have to get in the water.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can see how this idea would resonate with a lot of people, even people who aren't particularly religious, because it's this longing to connect to something bigger than themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us to someone you might already be familiar with, Jalal al-Din Rumi,
Ah, Rumi.
the beloved Persian poet.
You can't talk about Sufism without talking about Rumi.
His words have captivated people for centuries.
Yeah. And the whirling dervishes.
Yes.
Their dances are mesmerizing.
Rumi's poetry perfectly captures the essence of the Sufi path.
Okay.
It's filled with this longing for union with the beloved, which is the term Sufis often use to refer to God.
Hmm.
It expresses what logic and intellect can't grasp.
Yeah, it's like trying to express a feeling.
Exactly.
Something that transcends words.
Exactly. Sufi poetry in general uses words to point beyond words,
Okay.
to evoke a sense of yearning for that divine connection.
So we've traced the roots of Sufism. We've met some of the key figures that helped shape it.
Yeah.
But what about the path itself?
Yeah.
Like, what are the core beliefs and the practices that kind of guide a Sufi's journey?
Well, one of the most fundamental concepts is Tawhid,
Okay.
which essentially means the oneness of God.
Yes.
Sufis believe that everything in existence flows from this single divine source.
So we are all interconnected.
That's the essence of it, yeah.
Okay.
And the practices are designed to help them break free from the illusion of separation, to experience that oneness directly.
That sounds really profound, but how do you actually embark on that journey?
Well, it often involves following a spiritual path known as tariqa.
Okay.
It's a journey with 3 stages, each building on the one before.
So like ascending a spiral staircase?
Ooh, I like that analogy.
Okay.
The first stage is Sharia,
Oh.
which involves adhering to Islamic law.
Okay.
This includes the fundamental practices of Islam,
Okay.
like prayer, fasting, and giving to charity.
So the foundation is like rooted in the outward practices.
Exactly.
Okay.
Then we move to the second stage, tariqa.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting because this is where the inner work begins.
Ooh.
it's all about purifying the heart and drawing closer to God through specific practices.
So if the first stage is about doing, the second stage is about being.
You could say that, yeah.
Okay.
One of the key practices in this stage is dhikr,
Okay.
the repetition of God's names or sacred phrases.
I've heard about this. It's like a form of meditation.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a state of remembrance, of constantly being aware of God's presence.
What about the final stage?
The final stage.
What's at the top of that spiral staircase?
That final stage is called hakika,
Okay.
which translates to truth or reality.
Okay.
This is the ultimate goal of the Sufi path, the direct experience of divine love and presence. Imagine the complete merging with the divine,
Oh.
a state of profound union.
So transcending the individual ego and experiencing that oneness.
That's one way to put it. It's about dissolving the illusion of separation and realizing the truth that was always there,
Wow, incredible.
hidden beneath the surface.
We've gone from the origins of Sufism to this three-stage journey toward spiritual enlightenment.
And we've just scratched the surface.
Yeah, no, we have so much more to uncover.
There's so much more to explore.
We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the world of Sufism after a quick break. As we were talking about those three stages, Sharia, Tariqa, Hakika, I keep coming back to this idea of love.
Yeah.
Like we touched upon a little bit, but love is so central to Sufism.
You're absolutely right. You can't talk about Sufism without talking about love.
Yeah.
It's not just a feeling for Sufis, it's a driving force, the very essence of God.
So it's not just about adhering to the rules, it's about cultivating this deep love for the divine.
Exactly. And this isn't some vague notion of love.
Yeah.
Sufis believe that our souls originate from divine love
Okay.
and are constantly yearning to return to that source.
Like we're all on this journey back home,
That's a beautiful way to put it.
drawn by the magnetic pull of love.
Remember Rumi, the poet we discussed earlier?
Yeah.
His work is filled with this imagery of the soul as the lover,
Right.
eternally seeking union with the beloved,
Yeah.
which is how Sufis often refer to God.
It's interesting, though, because the kind of love that Rumi describes is so intense,
Right.
it's almost painful.
It's raw. It's passionate. It's fueled by this deep yearning for something that transcends the ordinary.
Yeah, and that's where I think Sufi poetry and music come in.
Yes.
They become these vehicles for experiencing and expressing this profound love.
Exactly.
Like the whirling dervishes.
Oh, yeah.
It's so much more than just a spectacle.
Yes.
Their dance, the sama,
Oh, right.
is like a moving meditation, a physical embodiment of this yearning for union.
Exactly. As they whirl, their hearts are focused on God. Their movements a manifestation of that love.
It's fascinating how they use their bodies in music to reach that heightened state.
And Sufi poetry, whether
Yeah.
it's Rumi or Hafiz or Ibn Arabi,
Right.
filled with metaphors and imagery
Yeah.
that captures this longing for unity.
Like the concept of fana.
Yeah.
It's about annihilating the self in God.
Yes, fana is the ultimate surrender, a state of complete absorption in the divine where the individual ego disappears.
Wow.
It's about transcending the limitations of the self to experience pure unity with God.
It's like losing yourself in something so completely that you emerge transformed. It sounds both terrifying and exhilarating.
It's a concept that's difficult to explain in words,
Yeah.
but incredibly powerful in its essence.
Now, we've talked about individual practices and these profound experiences,
Yeah,
but Sufism is not a solitary path, is it?
absolutely.
There's this strong emphasis on community and the guidance of a teacher.
The Sufi master,
Yeah.
also called a murshid or a pir,
Okay.
is a crucial figure in guiding disciples on their spiritual journey.
It's like having a mentor.
Yes, the relationship between the master and disciple is deeply important in Sufism.
Yeah.
The master offers guidance support and helps the disciple progress toward that divine union that we've been discussing.
I imagine that takes a lot of trust to surrender to the wisdom of another.
Absolutely. Finding the right matter is a significant step in a Sufi's journey.
It's so interesting how Sufism has created this structure
Yeah.
to support spiritual growth,
Mhm.
both individually and within a community.
And this structure is also reflected in the many Sufi orders,
Right, the tariqas.
or tariqas.
What are some of the key distinctions between these orders?
Well, each tariqa has its own unique lineage practices
Okay.
and often traces back to a specific Sufi master.
Okay.
They're all branches of the same tree, so to speak,
I like that.
each with its own way of reaching for the light.
So different paths leading to the same destination.
Exactly. Some, like the Qadiri order, are known for their focus on humility and charity,
Okay.
while others, like the Naqshbandi order, emphasize silent meditation and rigorous discipline.
And then there's the Mevlevi order with the whirling dervishes.
Yes.
Such a visual representation of this yearning for union.
Yes, and we can't forget the Chishti order, which is
Yeah.
very prominent in South Asia.
Okay.
They often incorporate Qawwali music,
Right.
which is deeply devotional and can induce incredibly powerful states of ecstasy.
It's amazing to see how Sufism has taken root and flourished in such diverse ways across the world.
It's a testament to the universality of its message and the power of those core principles we've been discussing.
You know, as we're exploring the richness and depth of this tradition,
Yeah,
it makes me wonder about its reach beyond Islam.
that's a great point. Sufism's influence isn't confined to just the Islamic world.
Right.
It's had a profound impact on other spiritual traditions and cultures throughout history.
Tell us more.
We'll have to save that for the final part of our deep dive.
Okay.
But let's just say that Sufism's emphasis on love, inner experience, and direct connection with the divine has resonated far and wide.
We're back, and, before the break,
Yes.
you were telling us about how Sufism's influence stretches beyond the boundaries of Islam.
Yeah.
So I'm eager to hear more about
Yeah, it's really quite fascinating.
It's-
You see the emphasis on love and inner experience and a direct connection with the divine.
Yeah.
All these core elements of Sufism,
that. Right.
they've resonated with other spiritual traditions around the world.
So I'm picturing bees buzzing between different flowers. What are some examples?
Well, let's look at the Bhakti movements in Hinduism.
Okay.
These traditions emerged around the same time as early Sufism,
Okay.
and they share a similar focus on devotion and love for God.
So even though they come from different religious roots, they kind of arrive at this understanding of love as the path.
Exactly, and it's not just the ideas that are similar.
Right.
Both Sufis and Bhakti saints often used poetry and music to express their devotion to connect with the divine on a deeper level.
Like Mirabai Kabir.
Exactly.
Surdas.
Yes, their poems and songs are filled with that same yearning for union with God that we find in Rumi or Hafiz.
So it's like these parallel paths running alongside each other,
Mm-hmm.
each enriching the other.
And the connections don't stop there.
Oh.
Sufism also had an impact on Christian mysticism.
Mm.
Think of figures like Meister Eckhart or St. John of the Cross,
Okay.
who emphasized the importance of inner experience and direct communion with God.
So even within Christianity, which has its own rich mystical traditions, we see echoes of Sufi ideas.
Absolutely, that desire for a direct personal relationship with God,
Yeah.
for transcending dogma and ritual to experience the divine within,
Right.
that's something that resonates with mystics across different faith backgrounds.
It's that universal human longing for connection.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the influence of Sufism on poetry and literature in general.
Sure.
Sufi themes and imagery appear in works from Persia, Turkey, India, and beyond.
Wow.
The poetry of Hafiz Rumi, Attar Yunus Emre,
Right.
it's transcended cultural and linguistic boundaries,
It really has.
touching hearts and minds across the globe.
It's amazing to see how Sufism has woven itself into the fabric of human expression,
Mm-hmm.
enriching art, literature, spirituality in so many diverse cultures.
It's a testament to the power of those core ideas,
Yeah.
their ability to resonate with people from all walks of life, regardless of their background.
Now, it hasn't always been easy, though, has it?
That's true. No tradition that pushes boundaries remains untouched by criticism or opposition.
What kind of pushback has Sufism encountered?
Well, within the Islamic world, some Orthodox scholars have viewed certain Sufi practices with suspicion.
Okay.
They see them as deviations from traditional Islam.
So there's this tension between the mystical, experiential approach
Yeah.
and a more literal, legalistic interpretation.
Yes, you could say that some critics have questioned practices like the veneration of saints
Okay.
or the use of music and dance and religious ceremonies,
Yeah.
arguing that these things go against the core tenets of Islam.
So it's like a debate about the definition of true Islam.
There's definitely that element, but it's important to remember that Sufism has always existed within the framework of Islam,
Yeah.
even as it seeks to explore the deeper, more mystical dimensions of the faith.
What about the challenges coming from outside the Islamic world?
Well, in certain parts of the world, Sufism has faced opposition from political movements and reformist ideologies.
So they see it as a threat.
It's possible. And unfortunately, this has sometimes led to Sufi shrines being targeted or Sufi practices being suppressed.
It's a reminder that the path of spiritual seeking is not always easy.
Very true.
Yeah.
But despite these challenges, Sufism remains a vital and vibrant force in many parts of the world,
Okay.
especially in places like Turkey, Iran, India, and Pakistan.
So it's still a living tradition.
Absolutely.
It continues to draw seekers.
Yes, and I think that's the beauty of Sufism. It offers a path that goes beyond the surface of religion,
Yeah.
inviting us to delve into the depths of our own hearts and connect with that source of love and wisdom that resides within each of us.
It's been an incredible journey exploring the world of Sufism with you today.
It has.
We've covered so much,
I have.
from its historical origins and its core beliefs to its practices, its diverse orders, and even its influence on other cultures and spiritual paths.
No.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. What aspect of Sufism speaks to you most deeply? Is it the poetry, the music, the emphasis on love, the idea of dissolving the ego in the ocean of divine unity? Whatever it is, I encourage you to explore further,
Yes.
to delve into the rich tapestry of Sufi thought and experience. You never know what treasures you might uncover on your own journey of discovery.